Well, award season is not far off, and already some pretty hefty names are starting to rev up for gold. And, well, in the field of animation, 2013 has certainly proven to be an interesting year, with Croods being an early success for DreamWorks and another franchise in the bag, though the same could not be said for Turbo. While Disney has had a 1-2-3 punch with Monsters University, the left field but incredible success of Planes, and, well, now Frozen. Meanwhile, over in Japan, the elder Miyazaki, Hayao, is finally bowing out with an animated biopic, The Wind Rises. But there is one film from this Pacific heartland of major animation that has been gaining particular note, and I feel is deserving of closer examination, mainly for its subject matter. The film in question is the younger Miyazaki's, Goro's, From Up on Poppy Hill. At a glance you might say, oh yeah, this looks like a cute, sweet enough little animated tale about young love set against post-war Japan. Well made, but not much more than that. However, that's not a completely accurate description. Sure, for the most part, it centers on a young boy and girl who begin to have feelings for one another, all while trying to save the school clubhouse from demolition, but it's a particular aspect of the romance that I want to draw focus to. About halfway through the story, the girl shows the boy a photo of her father, which, to his alarm, he recognizes as his own, though at first doesn't admit it and tries to push her away while he tries to make sense of this extremely bizarre situation. Naturally, I'm not going to give away what happens in the end, but as you can guess, things get really bumpy before too long, and these two young people at such a pivotal and uncertain point in their lives end up asking themselves one of the hardest questions imaginable. Can they still love and survive their situation, or must they suppress their feelings to conform to social norm? It has been quite a long time since I've seen an animated film that even dared to tackle a social taboo, especially a major one. Sure, we get messages about growing up, finding courage in yourself, don't be selfish, and all that good jazz a lot of the time, and we've even come to talking about death more than a few times in the recent years. All of these are important lessons for kids and families alike, but they aren't new, daring, or really force you out of your mental and ethical comfort zone. Poppy Hill does by not only giving you this almost sickening concept unsugared or played down, but also because it works to get you to like these characters beforehand, spending some time focusing on their day-to-day lives, and present them as believable people who have good hearts but are still kids, growing into adults and all the strange feelings that come from that. By combining puberty and relationship taboo together in one story, the Miyazakis not only make a brilliant connection between the two in terms of the powerful emotions they can both create and elicit, but also because they challenge the audience. Your mind and every single thing you have ever been taught tells you, no, this is just wrong beyond belief. But yet you still feel for them, and by the end you almost join them in saying, it doesn't matter because what they feel is strong and genuine, and it isn't based on the typical superficial, oh, he or she is so pretty that populates a lot of similar stories. They are both hard workers, they both have a large amount of charisma that inspires their fellow students to stand up for what they believe in, and they have incredibly strong resolve considering their age. This is what truly good relationships are built on, both in film and in real life. And when you throw in a taboo like potential incest, you're really going to have the audience feel something they haven't felt or really may never feel again when they're watching a film. Specifically one that's animated and as bright and colourful as this one is. Genuine doubt, both in what the film is saying and in themselves. That is quite something. More often than not, we use social taboos lazily when it comes to fiction. Instead of exploring the possible questions that they bring up about human nature, society, our psyches, and our overall willpower, we use them as lazy crutches to give us some false sense of moral superiority. Incest, in this case, is most commonly seen in horror fiction, often to give a lazy backstory for some throwaway serial killer or crazy family, with no real explanation, just so we have something to instantly repulse and revile. In other words, a cheap thrill. But Poppy Hill actually stops and says, but what if we not only bring this issue up in a story that, at a glance, seems the furthest thing away from it, but also have the characters be at that point in their lives when their bodies are changing and they begin to think and feel in ways they had never even remotely considered before. It's at this point in our lives that we truly begin to define ourselves as people, and when we begin to truly figure out who we are, what we like, and what we believe in. We develop feelings for others, both platonic and romantic, for the opposite or even same sexes. And these take on a much deeper, more personal dimension than just, say, having a couple of buddies over for a sleepover and some Xbox back in school. It takes on a substantial meaning, and we can feel so much greater or lesser because of these relationships. And when you mix an already confusing state that pretty much everyone has gone through with another one, sparks fly and they fly high. Goro and Hayao have given us something that even Pixar and DreamWorks at the height of their creative powers couldn't even hope to remotely touch and get a large mainstream release with toys and Happy Meals and all the usual. They weren't afraid to be straight with their audience or just make another sweet little film to pass the time. They wanted to both challenge the audience but also, in a sense, to remind us of our own immense capabilities for both love and struggle, and how, when we were that age, we too had extremely strong, uncertain, sometimes uncontrollable emotions that, more than a couple of times, got the better of our judgments and let it govern us, taking us into places that were both exciting and terrifying. In the end, From Up on Poppy Hill was a film that really surprised me, and I imagine it will go on to surprise many more. And I certainly hope the film goes on to have a long future in both the minds of the public and among animation enthusiasts. Am I saying it's automatically as great as something like Spirited Away? Well, no. At the end of the day, this theme is still wrapped up in a fairly straightforward story. But it's the fact that these people were willing to tackle this subject in the first place that instantly makes me give them gigantic props, and something that, well, is kind of refreshing, especially in a field like animation that unfortunately does tend to stagnate quite often due to, well, its popular image as being something for the kiddies. It's beautifully animated, beautifully scored, and at the end manages to elicit really powerful but also sometimes really confusing emotions. That is something not to be missed, and it is truly very special. Good job, Goro. I hope you have a great career in the future.